we just played part B of however many it turns out to be of our pilot episode. It's a little difficult to figure out what our actual pace is. Um, anyway, with the way that I'm doing my part of things in play, meaning I'm not planning out there's scene A, which leads to scene B, which leads to scene C, or might branch to CA, CB, and CC. But anyway, then there's scene D. I'm not doing that. So it's a little difficult to predict, because of that alone. But also there's the balance of talking about the rules versus getting things done in play. It turns out, because we talked about it today, we do enjoy the specific balance that we have, at least right now, of how much and how deeply we're exploring the rules and what kind of context we're giving to this rules exploration. How I interpret using that rule and how it connects to the specific character in the specific scene right now, but also how it connects to that character. So the idea is to get everybody as comfortable as possible with this game so we can get the most out of play as quickly as possible. So, the session itself had a faster pace in, let's say, the fiction than the previous one. And also, it was far more dramatic. And what I really appreciated was how seriously the players took the crisis and its threat to the injured and wounded and trapped in the outpost on the surface. Right? I liked how the roles of the various crew members, ones that we've actualized and realized in play, and ones that we're just kind of amorphously imagining must be there. I liked how duty assignments were given out and what they were. They focus on bringing the wounded back to the Avicenna. This was really cool. Now this gave us a pretty strong reason to be in a situation for lots of roles, and so lots of roles tends at this point in the learning process tends to be lots of talking about roles, and this is one reflection aimed at myself that I want to point out to myself and to anybody who watched how the thing went. There was, let's say, fewer opportunities, or it seemed like it was focused on the tasks and role resolution in my memory right now than it was on moments of interaction and role play. So part of that, I imagine, is rooted in my sense of we only have 2 hours, started late, talked a lot at the beginning, and now it's time to play, so let's play. But here we are talking about rules, that kind of thing. That sense of is everyone else having fun, and not really wanting to stop and say, hey, is everyone having fun? It looked like everyone was having fun, and then we talked about it at the end, and I think those are the important things to be aware of. If you feel like something could be off, it's best to ask about it right away. So it was a very dangerous situation, but the dice were definitely interesting. There was some really high, very effective results that really show who these characters are and what we can expect from them on a fairly regular basis. But there are also some roles which were just squeaking by. And so as we move away from talking about the rules, this will be a fantastic opportunity to get into description. And description that starts with one person, such as the game master establishing a success or a failure, and then is taken over by the other people who are involved in it to make it real. Right? So there'll be more room for that as we go on. Concern is that we're also establishing a habit of play. We're establishing a culture of play. And so I wouldn't want to not think about it and not reflect about it, and so wind up in a game that has less description and less interaction than it could have, just because we played through a number of scenes and that's how we played them, so we're just going to continue that. I don't think there's really anybody in the group that wants to go that way, or um, would let things go that way. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't think about it and be aware of it, and because that's also creating a habit. We might not have to worry about it this time in this campaign, but if we just ignore it, we don't consider, we don't practice that skill of analysis of how things, how am I driving, right? Then what is our next campaign going to be like? What are we going to let fall by the wayside? That kind of stuff. So anyway, it was fun. Lots of peril. And I ended up going from an empty threat pool in the very beginning of the session to a really very full threat pool at the end of this session. So if let's imagine this is a three-part, let's say it's 6 hours of play, or it won't really be 6 hours to play because we used some of the 2 hours for other things. But anyway, let's say it's a 6-hour thing, and we've just completed 4 hours. So in the first 2 hours, we went from starting threat to 0 threat. And in the next 2 hours, we went from 0 threat beyond starting threat. All right. And as the game master, one of the goals is, you don't want to finish the episode with threat remaining. I mean, obviously, you're not just going to spend it to spend it, but the idea is you don't just sit there on this huge pile of threat and not use it. You use it. So I've been dealt a big hand of threat, which will allow me to change the circumstances that are established by the scenes that we're in. So let's say that we had to do some kind of daring extravehicular activity with a shuttle, like moving from one ship to a damaged ship. Transporters aren't working, there's interference, this kind of stuff, so we have to do it by shuttle. The scene that's set up is piloting, from one shuttle docking bay to another shuttle docking bay, but the second, the landing zone is in a ship that's, tearing itself apart, and then to get back, that process has to be repeated. So we know these are inherently dangerous scenes, but we have the capacity to alter things, right? Things that we didn't think about when we framed the scene, things that are logical extensions of what is happening, like an open communicator signal is sent from the shuttle to its ship while it's trying to land on the dying ship. Well, that might attract the vessel that blew apart the dying ship, and it might come back, right? I hadn't thought about it prior to play, didn't think about it at framing the scene, but now that these events are happening, this makes sense. But instead of, like you might in another game, just deciding out of hand to throw in the attacking ship returning, you pay threat for it. And this is a visible thing that the players can see you do it, and you don't have to say, I'm spending this many threat to introduce this thing, but you spend the threat and you continue to describe the scenes, and then this attacking ship shows up, and the playgroup knows that you paid for it, right? You didn't necessarily plan for it to be there, but this is you playing, this is you interacting in the same way. This is almost, in a sense, like your character. The threat almost works like your character, your ability to work on the game world. And so it's just really kind of interesting and fun. So because some of this threat came from the players. This gives us an idea of what are some of the things that are generating the threat. Some of it comes from the environment, and some of it comes from rolling complications, so as the result of different things. I don't have to use this threat to punish a failed roll. I don't have to use this to affect you who earned it. It's just all of these things, just like momentum, they spread throughout the episode, and we can feel the fingers of their influence as we go through. So it's pretty cool. So my sitting here right now at the end of part B, realizing that next week is going to be part C, I'm pretty excited to have all this threat, and I guess my goal is to try and keep a fast pace. There's probably nothing new that I need to introduce. Like if the play group decides they need a secondary character, we've been through that, they know how to do it. If whatever action that they're attempting needs to be an extended roll, we've been through that and we know how to do it. Or at least it's familiar, right? We don't have to have a teachable moment kind of thing. If we get into combat or something like combat, like there was an opportunity today with a door acting as a partial barrier. If they'd wanted to use phasers to deal with this barrier, we could have dealt with it just as a hand wave. Yeah, it's a phaser. You blow it apart. But we could have handled it as a combat task, and it's pretty much identical to the extended task that we did. So, right, we are now as a joyful byproduct of having done an extended roll today, we're ready for combat now. So sitting here right now with no hard idea about a set of scenes that I have to put them in, right? I don't really think that there's new rules that'll need to be discussed, and they really seem comfortable with the rules that we've already introduced. So I'm expecting, both in the hope for sense, but also in the prediction sense, that we will be able to have a pretty fast pace. They'll be able to do the things that we want to do, and we won't have to talk about them and how to do them as much as we have in past sessions. And that's kind of cool. Even so, we've got a hard limit of 2 hours. Part of that is taken up by getting connected to Zoom and all of this stuff, and part of it is taken up by the getting to know you stuff, the juicy social stuff that makes playing with specific people fun. So I really liked the long chat we had at the end. It's sad that Joseph had to go and missed that, so I would have liked his input in it. But talking with Ron and KC about the session, getting to ask them some direct questions about their feelings on the balance of rules learning versus, let's just say, play, and talking about the nature of play, and talking about solutions for different problems, like forgetting what I wanted, the next step in the extended task, and forgetting about what the talent meant, so I couldn't answer Ron's question. Talking about these openly felt really good. So yeah, in this moment of play, I couldn't remember, right? So I want to do this next time. And it's like, yeah, I'll add this to the wiki, and yeah, don't worry about it, kind of stuff. So it's good, supportive, and fun. Anyway, Joe commented before he left, ended on another cliffhanger. And so I guess that's very much true, although we wouldn't really think of it as a cliffhanger as an episode. It's just, I guess, more like escalation, right? We end up with, oh, there's this thing that the crew doesn't notice, and then, whoa, there's this wave of, spoilers, wave of particles looking to impact with the ship. What does that mean? And so when we begin The the next part, we have our crew needing to make an emergency beam out. We have wounded that need to go to sick bay, and we have another, mission down into the outpost to possibly rescue more if they're still alive after this, this recent necessary escape. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on, and we still, of course, have that looming threat out there as something removed the crew from the USS Potemkin. You know, is that this wave of particles? Is that something else? Um, so there's a lot of reason to be excited about the next episode. So if you've listened to this reflection, thank you for listening to this reflection. And if you've watched the actual play, I look forward to your thoughts about it on whatever level, like the characters that you like, situations that you liked, questions about the mechanics, questions about how things were handled, that kind of stuff. Anyway, take care.